All right, this is going to be a very, very quick run through of basically a $15 Edric deck. Edric is 1 green and blue for a 2/2 elf rogue. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller draws a card. If Edric is at your helm, it is going to be your creatures doing most of the drawing. Very seldom are the other players even going to have a chance. Getting it out of the way, mana base. I have 3 non-basics and about 31 basics. Your 3 non-basics, Simic Growth Chamber. It's the only land that comes into play tapped. Panorama comes into play untapped. You can pay 1, tap, sack, go find one of your basics that you need. Aether Hub, basically single use, but it comes into play untapped, and you can have any mana you need. Basically, you want Edric down on turn 2, turn 3, and I can't have too many tap lands getting in the way of that. Moving on. First, let's start talking the ramp. You have your 2 basic elves. Get those out of the way. Elvish Pioneer. 1 green, 1/1 comes into play. Put a basic from your hand into play tapped. Many times, this thing is almost as good as Birds of Paradise. You know, if you keep a 3-lander, 4-lander, you play this guy on turn 1, all of a sudden you're at 3 mana on turn 2, possibly also including blue. Diligent Farmhand. More expensive mana-wise than a Sack Tribe Elder. However, it is a 1 mana 1/1. It can go off when you need, and dollar-wise, it's under half the price of a Sack Tribe Elder. So if you're trying to actually have a cheap deck, you got to make some concessions. Non-creature ramp. Now, Broken Bond's very odd. It's a sorcery speed disenchant that lets you put a land from your hand into play. In this deck, you're mostly just using it against propagandas. If someone gets a fast start with a Mana Rock, Soul Ring, blow it up, get your land out. It can be fun. Nissa's Pilgrimage. A worse version of Cultivate, but better in some cases. For 2 and a green, you go to find 2 basic forests. 1 comes into play tapped, 1 goes to hand. If you Spell Mastery, aka 2 spells in the graveyard, when you cast this, you'll get a 3rd one out of it. Once you have a blue source, everything else after that doesn't matter as much. Calling Heart Expedition, you're going to be playing lands probably almost every turn. Whenever you play this, this is just going to get 2 lands out of your deck, and it's going to be an enchantment in case you need it for the sake of Delirium. There's a few cards there. Explore, better for this deck than Rampant Growth. It lets you draw a card and play an additional land, because most likely you have more lands in your hand, you just want them out. Signet, because easy filtering gets you blue right away. Moving on. We're going to go into effectively the protection creatures. 1 in the blue, 2/2. If you don't play green, you sack it, but when this comes in play, it has flash, it gives your entire team Shroud. Obviously, it's going to save a few bodies, and if you get to keep it, which you should be able to, an extra 2/2 is nothing to scoff at. Even playing it just for flash at the end of an opponent's turn, if you need another creature, it helps. Silumgar Sorcerer, it's a 3 mana, 2/1 flyer with flash. If you exploit something else, or even this, it can be a removed soul. It can stop another creature. You're generally going to stop someone's commander. You're going to stop a titan. You're going to stop something that messes up your day. You're not just countering big bodies. Big bodies aren't the problem. You need to stop something that's going to mess with you right now. 2 Spike Tails. You have a 2 mana 1/1. You have a 3 mana 2/2. This guy can be sacked to counter target spell unless they pay 2. This guy can be sacked to counter target spell unless they pay 1. Having it on board means players, if they're expecting a Wrath to work, they have to work around that. That's going to buy you 2-3 turns. These things, as rattlesnakes, are awesome. Now, Stratus Dancer. Complicated because it is Megamorph. So, you need to spend 5 if you need to do it in the same turn to counter an instant or sorcery. However, you can also use it as a 2 mana 2/1 flyer. Both modes are great. You'll know when you need to use which mode. 4 mana, 2/2, and it comes in and counters target spell. It is not the greatest thing ever. However, it's a counter spell with a reliable body. Kind of important for the sake of things getting bounced, destroyed, everything else. Now we're going to get into basically what I like to call pinpoint, whether it's counter spells or other. Simic Charm is basically this deck. It allows you for 1 in your green to give target creature +3/+3, to give everything you have, all permanents hexproof, or to bounce target creature. This is almost useful at any point in the game. If it's not useful, you're winning the game. That's just how this works. Snapback. You're going to laugh at this, however, it's a good card. 1 in the blue, Balanced target creature. That part's terrible. However, you can remove a blue card in your hand instead of paying this as casting cost. So even if you're tapped out, or especially if you tap out to throw someone off, you can still take care of their random block, or take care of their commander, take care of some key piece of some combo, whether it's Peregrine Drake, who knows. You can stop a lot of things with this card. Void Snare. Arguably bad. However, 1 blue sorcery bounces target non-land permanent. That's generally going to be planeswalkers, enchantments, artifacts. The main point is, for 1 blue, this is going to have an answer and probably allow you to push 1 more turn. Mana Leak. 1 in blue, all the counter magic is splashable. 1 in blue, counter unless they pay 3. Spell Rupture. This one's a little harder to control. They have to pay X, where X equals the greatest power among creatures you control. We're talking reliably 2 power, give take, maybe 3. Realistically, it's 2. But when you're on a budget, it's how it goes. Abjure. 1 blue, sack a blue permanent, counter target spell. Important because it stops any spell. So if there's something that cannot happen, you have 1 blue open, sack something. Doesn't even matter if it's Edric himself. You need to stop it. It needs to happen. Spell Pierce. 1 blue. Counter target non-creature spell unless they pay 2. You're here to stop wraths. Invasive Surgery. A lot of text. Only part that actually reads anything is 1 blue. Counter target sorcery spell. It's here to stop wrath effects. That's it. Even if Delirium does trigger, it doesn't do anything in EDH. Disdainful Stroke. Arguably, it stops just about everything you want to stop. It stops Titans. It stops most Wrath effects. It's not going to stop the micro sweepers, any of the 3 mana, -2/-2, 3 damage, those sorts of things. But this is going to stop a majority of things. It's splashable, which is very important. Memory Lapse. Big thing here is that you sort of time walk 1 player. Ironically, whatever spell it is that they were trying to get out, that's the exact thing they need. It's the exact thing they're going to draw. But for 1 in a blue, splashable again, you can stop anything. You need 1 more turn. This gives you 1 more turn. Misdirection. 1 in a blue, counter target spell, any spell, unless they pay 2. It has cycling, not as strong as Mana Leak, but also doesn't get stuck in your hand. This is the link, if you will. Unsubstantiate. 1 in blue. It bounces a creature or a spell. This is not going to counter, but it's going to remove uncounterable spells. Anything that cannot be stopped, anything that says, I can't be countered, this puts it back into their hand. Therefore, this can stop Eldrazi. This can stop, I can't think of it right now. The uncounterable wrath effects, anything that's been, uncounterable because of Boseiju. This has a lot of versatility. It's not the greatest thing, but having modes is very important. Moving on. Alright, so how are we going to get cards? Well, we have some invasive bodies. 1 mana, 1/1 flyer. All this stuff about historic and you can scry 1. It might trigger, it most likely isn't. However, when we're on a budget, this is cheaper than Flying Men, so it gets the nod right here. Ice Feather Aven most likely is going to be, if I can get it in shot, a 2 mana 2/2 flyer. However, it does have the option, there we go, that if this thing needs to be morphed and then unmorphed, so 6 total, you can bounce target creature. Flexible, but most likely just a flying body. Nightveil Sprite. Now, a 2 mana 1/2 flyer, if I can speak right. Stormcrows are bad. However, the fact that this surveils on attack, not on damage being dealt, means it can be chumped, it can die. It's going to at least go 1 card deep. This is great even without Edric, and that is very important. Wharf Infiltrator, arguably one of the more entertaining cards in the deck. It's a 1/1 with Skulk, so it can't be blocked by anything with power, 2 or greater. When it deals damage, you draw a card, discard a card. That part's fun. If you discard a creature card for any reason, that part is important. You may pay 2 colorless. If you do, you create a 3/2 Eldrazi. He will have a lot of synergy with a lot of other cards coming in. You can also slow roll him in a control matchup, so you just need him and Edric, and you can make your own army at a slower pace and not have to overcommit into a Wrath. Cold Eye Selkie. Important because it can be played for green mana. 1/1 Island Walk. It deals, for however much combat damage it deals, you draw that many cards. It can come up more later, but if you have a bigger budget, it's better. 3 1 mana 1x unblockables. That's simple. It's all you need. Turn 1 play, perfectly fine. Moving on. Death Touchers, and you're going to laugh at that. Here's a Soul Bond one, so he and the Soul Bonded creature will have Death Touch. Here is a 1/2 that can be a 2/3. This one is a 1/2, has this nice little Blood Rush effect that it can give a +1/+2 and Death Touch. Useful, so this can kind of be a removal spell. It can also just save someone from a, if a sweeper is done in combat, because it has to be done on attackers only. Very versatile, often it's just a 1/2. 1/1 that gets +2/+2 if you have Delirium. You're not going to have Delirium often, it's a 1/1, but it has a chance. 2 mana, 2/2, if you control a bigger guy, it can be a 3/3. It's just a cheap Death Toucher. Water one else Death Touch. Besides the fact that they're a pain to block. Mortar Pod. The big thing here is that the creature, whenever you sack the creature that this is attached to, the creature deals the damage. Meaning, this guy is going to slow-mo shotgun a bunch of guys. You have this attached to whatever creature is soul bonded, including the germ token it comes in with. Those creatures will then pop, start taking out other possible blockers. This is a cheap way to reuse small bodies instead of Skull Clamp. Skull Clamp kills them. This allows you to take out other guys. Caustic Caterpillar. 1 mana, 1/1. It can blow up an enchantment or artifact for 2 mana. Reclamation Sage. 3 mana, 2/1. Blows up an enchantment or artifact. Waterfront Bouncer. Very important. This guy can go with the Wharf Infiltrator if needed. 1 blue tap. Any card in your hand all of a sudden becomes an unsummon. This is probably one of the MVPs of the deck. You are going to tempo the board. You're going to keep players from being able to keep pace. They are not going to be able to catch up. Trigon Predator. Sometimes you need to blow up some stacks pieces. 3 mana, 2/3 flyer. When it's good, it's amazing. If it's not amazing, guess what? You can discard it. You can choose not to play it. It's still a flyer. It still has a good body on it. Hypnotic Siren. Sometimes a confusing card. 1 mana, 1/1 flyer. That mode is still important. However, you can bestow for 7 mana. If you do, it becomes a control magic. You can steal a creature, and it gets +1/+1 flying. If it's in your opener, play it as a 1/1. If you get it later, steal something important. You let something slip through the shield, something that wasn't that important, all of a sudden becoming a flyer is very important. Horizon Chimera, an odd duck to say the least. 4 mana, flash, flying, trample, 3/2. Bunch of weird abilities stapled on there. The part you really generally care about is right here. Whenever you draw a card, gain a life. If you're drawing 4 or 5 cards a turn, this will keep you out of range in a multiplayer game of the fast deck that you were ignoring, or the slow deck that all of a sudden got something through the shields. This will keep you in the game. 4 mana is not what I want to pay for it, however, it is necessary. Alternate win condition. Psychosis Crawler. Its power and toughness are equal number of cards in your hand, so probably a 6/6 or better. The big thing here is whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. Here's how you get your table kill. Here's how you get everyone into gun range, especially when you're pinging everyone with small creatures. This guy is an alternate win con. Let's go through a few other ones. The other 2 big finishers. Overrun. Little green heavy, all your creatures get +3/+3 and trample. That's fine. Card is physically cheap. It works. Biomass Mutation. The nice part is it can be done for green or blue mana. It's an instant. Your creatures become XXs. Since most of your creatures are 1Xs or X1s, doing this for 3, fantastic. It'll punch through. Even if it saves 1-2 guys in combat, it's a pseudo kill spell. It does about everything you need to do. Why I think my version of the deck does something better than other cheap versions, I run 2.5 Time Walks. Okay, 6 mana, take an extra turn. Okay, the Awaken, it's overpriced. It's 9 mana to get a 6/6. You're probably not going to be there, and if you are, you've already won the game. Karn's Temporal Sundering. 6 mana, you have to have Edric in play or another legendary creature. To my recollection, he's the only one, so you have to have Edric in play. Oh well. It's still under $1, a $1, Time Walk, very important. You also get to bounce a non-land permanent. So set somebody back and take an extra turn, absolutely. For $1, fine. Here's the extra halves. So, old card, under $1, 2 blue, discard any number of cards, bounce X, non-land permanents. You start going over your hand limit, you start drawing 5 cards a turn with Edric. It is very easy to clean up the board, put everything back in their hands. People will have to discard. You definitely can make way with this thing. I usually cast this after my Edric swing just because I need the extra cards in hand. Can it be done before combat? Yes, but almost every time it's done after combat with the extra cards, especially if they're lands. Aetherize. Someone decides to alpha strike you, they decide to commit their entire board to you, or better yet, they commit to someone else. Bounce it. Anytime someone commits more than 3 attackers, bounce them all. Set them back at a few turns. That's all you need. This is a tempo deck. You need to go fast. Home stretch. Auras and equipment. The two that are affordable for a $15 budget. Curiosity and Sixth Sense. Now, Sixth Sense triggers on combat damage. That's fine. Curiosity triggers on all damage. So technically, you can do stuff if you had pingers, but that's not the part that's important. There are 2 more of these, one in green, one in blue. They each cost $2 or more. These are the ones you can afford for the budget. Sigil Sleep. Whenever an enchanted creature deals damage to a player, return target creature that player controls to its owner's hand. This has never been turned into equipment. This is the only card like itself. This thing is insane and should scare anybody once it's attached to one of your unblockables. You just, again, tempo play. One with Nature, a lot of text. I'll give you the short version. Whenever the creature deals combat damage, you find a basic, you put into play tapped. I have, in a 3-player game, had this get me over 7 lands by being on a turn 1 unblockable. This does work. This is ramp. Nurak's Stealth Suit, the part that you don't see very often, and because of the color palette at the time. Blue, attach Nurak's Stealth Suit at instant speed. Equipped creature has Shroud. It's a counterspell. You put it out, you don't even need to attach it. Just leave 2 blue open. You can counter any pinpoint removal on one of your guys. It's amazing. It just moves around the board. Exploroscope. 1 to drop, 1 to equip. When you attack with a creature, flip over the top card of your library. If it's a land, put into play tapped. Basically, does it hit all the time? No. Even if it hits 1 out of 3 times, for 1 mana, absolutely worthwhile. If it's hitting cards, it's putting out stuff, you're not drawing those lands. Underestimated, it will do work. Not as good as one with Nature, but repeatable. Rapid Vigor. 1 green instant regenerate all your creatures. It does what it does. Wrath Insurance. Speaking of Wrath Insurance, another odd card, you're not going to believe me, but 1 in a blue enchantment. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, investigate. So, you're going to get clue tokens. Slow extra draw. They're just tokens of extra draw sitting there for when you flood. 1 in your green, exile a creature card from your graveyard, investigate, gain 2 life. I've gotten over 10 life from this card in one game. I've gotten well over 10 clue tokens from this in one game. Big tactic here, if you divide your creatures up against 3 different players, this will give you 3 tokens. It's per player being hit by 1 or more. So, that's how you get extra draw out of this. Military Intelligence. Again, not going to believe me, it's good. 1 in blue, whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures, draw a card. So it's roughly 1 extra card a turn, give take for 1 in blue. It's your Phyrexian Arena. Bident of Thassa. This is the one that's financially viable. It's back up to Edric and has a nice little action there that you can make an entire team swing out. So if you want to clear a path, totally go off and do it. The last part we have was 1 flex slot. As Open and Wonder, Curse of the Swine, Armed with Aether. One of these is going to be appropriate. This is backup for Edric. It has X target creatures are unblockable. Draw a card whenever that creature deals damage. Curse of the Swine. Exile X creatures. They get a 2/2. Only pick the big ones. Only pick the ones that threaten you. Armed with Aether. If you reliably have open targets, people who like to swing out all the time, this gives Sigil Sleep to your entire team. If you have a bunch of flyers, basically if you know how to play this card is amazing. People don't walk into it all the time. It's why currently I'm running Open into Wonder. One of these will be right for your meta, just have to pick which one. So, if we want to start talking where can I upgrade, there are 2 cards immediately that come to mind. Equilibrium, Harvest Season. Harvest Season goes in, it's a better version, I'll show you right there. You get to search your library for X basics, where X is equal number of tapped creatures. Well, if you're swinging with 3 or 4, that's a better version than this is Pilgrimage. Equilibrium, every time you play one of your cheap guys, pay 1, bounce a creature. Well, when you have a bunch of 1 casting costs and 2 casting costs, you're going to be bouncing a ton. These don't fit into the $15 budget, you can still get both these in and fit in under 20. Real quick before I run out of time. Alright, so, Fairy Package. It's stupid, but it works great. There are a bunch of 1 mana, 1/1 flyers. This one has flash protection from blue. You would turn a forest, untap a creature, works great with your bouncer. essentially free creature, can be cycled, and the only reason you run fairies is so you have a counterspell fairy. So if money allows, you can fit this in, but these two are going to run you about $3 or so for the combination. So if it's in your budget, go ahead. You're going to say, well, what makes this guy special? Literally nothing, he just costs more than the other unblockables. Hope of Girapur, guaranteed turn 1 play, and it flies. Gonna get in there. Curse Catcher, counter instant sorcery if you sack him for 1. Great card, however, runs about $2 and some change. Slow ticking control magic. It's totally worthwhile. Runs about, just under $2. Here is the extra, one of the extra curiosities. There's the other one. These two combined equal about $5. Even find them cheap, you're looking at 3, 4. So if it's in your budget, go to it. Pinpoint everything removal. Beast from Wind. Great answer. However, you don't need it. It can't. If you got it, cool. If not, Pirate Jace. He is your backup to backup to backup. He is your extra Bident. He does extra heavy lifting. Now, all that's said and done, I know I went through a lot of things very quickly. Got any questions, post in the comments. The deck I showed you, the point is you can get for under 15 if you allow for heavily played and damaged cards. It's an Edric deck. If you want to play it and see what everything's all about, don't spend a ton of money right away. $15, totally easy. Has a bunch of interchangeable pieces. The big thing is you play the tempo game. You want to be playing fast. You want to keep things off the board. Edric, while the center of it, I have 2 or 3 backups in there. There are, you need some redundancies, but the big thing is you're playing tempo. You need to have more mana than your guys. You need to be countering only the key spells. You need to be a better Magic player. This deck can get you there if you are willing to learn. So $15 lesson, I think it's great. Hope you give it a shot.